Welcome back to the SportsMax Zone. The highly anticipated Tokyo Games formally starts Friday with the opening ceremony, and live action can be seen daily and exclusively in most territories on your home of champions SportsMax. It's 6:30 a.m. Eastern Caribbean time, 5:30 in Jamaica Friday morning for the start of our coverage of the opening ceremony. Beyond that, the Caribbean's presence should as usual be greatly felt in track and field, with Jamaica projected to be flag bearers for the event. The Jamaicans, Trinidad and Tobago, the Bahamas, Grenada all won Olympic medals the last two games, London and Rio. So what can we expect about 8,000 miles away in Tokyo from our Caribbean men and women? Joining us to talk about that, track and field analyst Leighton Levy. Leighton, we are hours away now from the opening ceremony. I know as a big sports enthusiast and journalist, you are very, very anxious to see the opening ceremony and so on. But a lot expected from Caribbean performers, and as usual, track and field is expected to dominate for the region as far as medals are concerned.
Yes, Lance. Good evening to everyone as well. Traditionally, that's where the Caribbean tends to do well. I mean, from a historical perspective, Jamaica's 78 medals won at the Olympic Games. Only one was not won in track and field. So let's start with what we expect. I think the women are going to do really well. I think Stephen Gardner from the Bahamas will carry the flag for the Caribbean, and of course his country. And I think it will be an outstanding game for the Caribbean. Should everybody perform up to expectations.
Yeah. You just mentioned quite correctly that the dominance for track and field in the region has been lopsided. Very infrequently you have medals outside of track and field for Caribbean people. But since we have gone there, Dylan Carter from TNT and Alia Atkinson from Jamaica are two world-class swimmers. There's a triathlete from Bermuda by the name of Flora Duffy. Any chance of seeing some medals coming outside of track and field from the region this time?
I think we're hopeful. This will be Alia Atkinson's last Olympic Games, her fifth, having made her debut in 2004. Just missed out on a medal in the last game, finishing fourth in I think it was a 50-meter breaststroke. So he has additional motivation to do well here. So, we can hope that she will bring her A game. I know she will, and that it will be good enough for her to get among the medals. Dylan Carter, similarly, outstanding swimmer for Trinidad and Tobago over the years, and I suspect that he might be in that mode right now where he can sneak in among the medals for that country in the pool as well. And of course, we have some youngsters coming up like Alex Tubals from Barbados and Daniel Titus. They will be hoping to use the experience to become even better swimmers that perhaps become medalists by the time we roll into Paris in 2024. So there's a lot of positives to look forward to for the non-traditional sport in the Caribbean, and I think this Olympics could be a stepping stone for what we see in the future.
Definitely. And Leighton, any athlete that's making their debut that would have caught your attention from the Caribbean that you can say this athlete is going to medal for sure?
That's hard to say for you. The thing is, I'm looking at outside of Jamaica, there's a young lady from Trinidad and Tobago who we are well aware of her accomplishment this season in the heptathlon. She made the Olympics, she just missed out by 2 points. We're talking about Tara Gittins, who has jumped 6 meters 96 in the long jump. And I think, given what we've seen from her in major competition this year at the collegiate level, she might just be ready to jump over 7 meters, which would put her in a position to actually end up among the medals. There are a number of women who have jumped 7 meters this year, but it's what you do on the day that counts. And I think what you've seen from Tara Gibson so far this season is that when it counts, she brings her best, and hopefully that will be good enough to get her among the medals for the long jump for Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah.
And beyond that, for your goal, I think, has shown this year that she's among the best in the world. She's the third fastest time in the world this year. And if she navigates the rounds well, I see her among the medals in the 800 meters, notwithstanding the presence of an Atik who I think is probably coming in as the favorite, and of course Almanza from Cuba. I think that's why Agul has a legitimate shot at a medal in the 800 meters.
Yeah, and speaking about medal prospects, TNT cyclist Justin Phillip, of course, testing positive for cannabis, and he will be missing out. How big of a miss where medals are concerned will he be for Trinidad and Tobago?
It's hard to say because cycling, these guys are among the best cyclists in the Caribbean. However, in the world, it's a little bit different. I think they probably would have performed really, really well, but when I'm not those very good performances will translate to medals, it's from where I sit right now, it's hard to say.
Yeah, and this is my most important question. I believe that personality sells at the Olympics. People remember you for some of the things that you do, which is why even after Usain Bolt is not competing anymore, people still love him, and it doesn't matter if he makes an advertisement, they're going to tune in because he has that personality, right? Which personality are we to look forward to this Olympics? We're already in a pandemic.
You're putting me on the spot here, Maria. But, outside, the person I thought who would have brought that kind of personality to the Olympics is not going to be there. And that's Shakara Richardson from the United States. I think that outside of Usain Bolt, a lot of people don't like her. She's a very polarizing figure, but she also draws attention to herself and to the sport. Outside of that, I think the Shelley Fraser Prize is going to come with another set of leagues that will captivate the world like she did in 2019 at the World Championship, where she had a different week for different roles. And I think because of what she's done and what she's trying to accomplish, I think there's a lot of eyes on her in Tokyo. And I think that she probably will be one of the transformative figures for these Olympic Games, which is most likely will be her last. Outside of that, I think Tyra Gibbs, as I mentioned earlier, she is someone who has that personality, who will engage people. Her antics during competition, her personality overall is very engaging, and I think she will win a lot of Caribbean fans and fans across the world at the Olympic Games, depending on how well she performs.
Yeah, well, Leighton, the Caribbean won 7 gold medals in Rio. There is the returning 200 and 100 meter women's champion Elaine Thompson, Hera. And for the Bahamas, Shawnee Miller is also back. But there are a few athletes who were World Championship gold medalists back in Doha in 2019. Shelley Ann Fraser-Price. There was Stephen Gardner from the Bahamas. Anderson Peters from Grenada, the javelin thrower. How confident are you that there is at least a handful of gold medals for the Caribbean this time in Tokyo?
Very much so, lad. You mentioned Shelley Ann Fraser-Price, of course. I think she's right now the overwhelming favorite to win the 100 meters, regardless of the quality of the field that's around her this year. Given the fact that we've seen her run 10:63 this year, and she's run her best at 200 meters, it is likely from where looking at the figures and looking at how she's performed, that she will win the 100. Similarly, there's a strong possibility that a Caribbean athlete will win the 200 meters, whether it's Elaine Thompson or Shawnee Miller. We will. I think we will see someone on top of the podium from the Caribbean. There are 4 strong Caribbean candidates in that race, and I think 1 US and 1 from the UK. I think one of those 4 will end up on top of the podium. Stephen Gardner in the 400 is my favorite to win the 400. Of course, then going on to the women's 400 meters, where I think without Sherika Jackson, without Shawnee Miller, without Ashalwa as the spear, I think Stephanie McPherson has a very, very good chance of coming away with a gold medal. And of course, the relays, I think Jamaica will win the 4x1 women once the stick goes around. And there's a possibility of other opportunities, like, for example, Keyshawn Walker has thrown 89 meters this year. Yes, Meta has thrown up to 97 meters. But as we know, the javelin is one of those events where you could come to the event and he's not on your game. So the opportunity is here for Keyshawn Walker to come to and probably start something from better. was one of the other medal favorites. And the situation has not looked the same as it was in 2019. So I'm not particularly confident, but I think the Caribbean, there are a number of gold medals out there for Caribbean athletes to pick home after these Olympic Games.
Yeah, and finally, before you go, Leighton, the fact that there won't be spectators at the Olympic Games, we are looking back at some video of previous track and field championships, both world championships and Olympics, and my heart goes out for the jumpers, Leighton, because you know that clapping thing they do when they are getting the crowd involved to propel themselves through the air. they won't have that to feed off.
Yeah, it won't, and it will be a challenge for some of those athletes like the jumpers who depend on that rhythm to be able to hit the board and everything. But I think overall, these athletes train in circumstances that allow them to bring their best out without the energy brought by a crowd. They're putting up these numbers in training that tell them that then you can go into competition and do well. So I don't think they'll necessarily meet the crowd, but for some of them it might be a challenge, especially the jumpers, the pole vaulters, the triple jumpers. But I still think they will do very well. I'm expecting Univar Ross from Venezuela to break the world record if the conditions are right. Yeah. And I expect Tanika to go over 50 meters for the first time. So I think they're ready. I think they're prepared mentally to perform at their highest levels of the crowd.
Leighton Levy, great talking to you as usual. The phone line not the best, but we appreciated having your expert comments anyway.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, so
don't mind this could make something that.
Excitement, Leighton.
Yeah. So the opening ceremony comes up in the morning, as we said. The coverage will start 6:30 Eastern Caribbean time, 5:30 in Jamaica on most stations, most countries throughout the region, and we will certainly be looking forward to bringing all of the action to you on Friday morning and for the 2.5 weeks beyond that. Back with more on The Zone after this.